Hello guys, my name is Kuldeep and I am presenting lyophilization and protein-protein interaction methods. First is lyophilization. Lyophilization means freeze drying. It is a stabilizing process in which a substance is first frozen and the quantity of the solvent is reduced. First by sublimation, which is also called primary drying stage, and then desorption, which is also called secondary drying stage. Two values that will no longer support biological activity or chemical reactions. The history of lyophilization. Freeze drying was first actively developed during World War II for transport of serum. Atlas in 1961 built 6 production freeze drying cabinet for Nestle Group in Germany, Holland. Now the principle of lyophilization. Lyophilization is carried out using a simple principle of physics sublimation. Lyophilization is performed at temperature and pressure conditions below the triple point to enable sublimation of ice. The entire process is performed at low temperature and pressure by applying vacuum. Hence, it is suited for drying of thermolabile compounds. The driving force is vapor pressure difference between the evaporating surface and the condenser. Processing of lyophilization. The fundamental process steps are following. First is freezing. In this process, the product is frozen. This provides a necessary condition for low temperature. Next step is vacuum. After freezing, the product is placed under vacuum. This enables the frozen solvent in the product to vaporize without passing through liquid phase. This process is known as sublimation. Next process is heat. Heat is applied to the frozen product to accelerate sublimation. And last is condensation. The low temperature condenser plate removes the vaporized solvent from the vacuum chamber by converting back to a solid. This completes the process of lyophilization. Now, there are the following steps involved in lyophilization. First stage is freezing stage. Next is primary drying stage, and next is secondary drying stage, and last one is packing. The first stage, freeze drying stage. Freeze drying stage is the product solution to be a temperature below its eutectic temperature. It decreases the self temperature to -50 degrees Celsius, and low temperature and low pressure are maintained. The freons are used as refrigerant. Then the formation of ice crystal occurs. The rate of ice crystallization defines the freezing process and the efficiency of primary drying. Next stage is primary drying stage. It is also called sublimation. Heat is introduced from self to the product under graded control by electrical resistance coils or circulating silicon. The temperature and pressure should be below the triple point of water, that is 0.0098 degrees Celsius and 4.58 mm Hg. The driving force is vapor pressure difference between the evaporating surface and the condenser. It easily removes moisture up to 98 to 99%. Next stage is secondary drying stage. It is also called desorption. In this stage, the temperature is raised to 50 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius and vacuum is lowered about 50 mm Hg. The bound water is removed. The rate of drying is low and it takes about 10 to 20 hours. The last stage is packing. After drying, the vacuum is replaced by filtered dry air or nitrogen to establish atmospheric pressure. The ampoules are sealed by either tip sealing or pull sealing method. The vials and bottles are sealed with rubber closures and aluminum caps. The advantages of lyophilization. Removal of water at low temperature. It is used for thermolabile materials can be dried. The compatible with aseptic operation. It is more precise to fill weight control. Sterility can be maintained. Reconstitution is easy. Next is disadvantage of lyophilization. In this process, many biological molecules are damaged by the stress associated with freezing and freeze drying or both. The product is prone to oxidation due to high porosity and large surface area. Therefore, the product should be packed in vacuum or in container impervious to gases. Cost may be an issue depending on the product. It is a long time process. Now the application of lyophilization. In pharmaceutical and biotechnology, it is used to increase the shelf life of products such as vaccines and other injectables. In food industry, it is used to preserve food for very lightweight. It is used to produce essences of flavoring agents. It is used for freeze dry fruits are produced. Culinary herbs are preserved. Instant coffee powder is prepared by using this technique. Technical industries, it is used in chemical synthesis and for formation of stable products. Other applications are it is used for flora and fauna preservation. It is used for recovery of water damaged books and documents. This is the process of lyophilization. Now our next topic is protein-protein interaction methods. Protein-protein interactions can involve only two proteins or more than two proteins. In many multi-subunit complexes, all components do not interact or make contact with each other. The technique available to study protein-protein interactions are based on different principles, and thus the choice of the technique will depend upon the kinetics, stoichiometry, and the thermodynamics of the interaction. The protein-protein interaction methods are following. First is in vivo techniques. It involves yeast to hybrid method, split ubiquitin system, co-immunoprecipitation, FRET, and bifluorescence system. Next is in vitro techniques. It involves affinity chromatography, which is of two steps, direct interaction and tap and tag method. And next is in silico technique. In vivo technique, the first method is yeast to hybrid system. This is an in vivo genetic technique that is used for studying interaction between two proteins. This technique is based on the fact that many of eukaryotic transcription proteins are modular in structure, possessing two distinct domains, an activation domain and an DNA binding domain. The two domains need not be present on the same protein, but the physical association between the two domains is needed for transcription activation. This principle has been exploited by the yeast to hybrid system to study whether two protein A and B interact each other. Protein A is fused to the DNA binding domain called bait, and the protein B is fused to the activating domain called prey. The two constructs are transferred into the yeast cell, and the transcription of a repeater gene is monitored. If the protein A and B interact, the DNA binding domain will be in physical contact with the activation domain, and the reporter gene will be transcribed. If the two proteins do not interact, the DNA binding protein will not be in physical contact with each other, and therefore the reporter gene will not be transcribed. The advantages of this method include high sensitivity, as the minimal binding constant between two interacting proteins need to be only 1 micrometer for detection by this method. Next method is split ubiquitin system. Ubiquitin is a small protein composed of 76 amino acids that is attached to protein targeting for degradation. The protein was split into two halves by Johnson and Dvorsky, creating nub composed of 1 to 34 amino acid and cub composed of 35 to 76 amino acids. The split ubiquitin system has now been adapted to study protein-protein interactions in a similar manner to the yeast to hybrid system. For example, if protein A and B are hypothesized to interact, then protein A is fused to the nub and protein B is fused to cub. The two proteins are overexpressed in yeast, and if A and B interact, then the formation of intact functional ubiquitin is scored as a positive outcome. When protein A and B interact, a functional ubiquitin protein is formed and the transcription factor is cleaved. This transcription factor is translocated to the nucleus where it activates the expression of a reporter gene like LAC-Z. The expression of LAC-Z, which encodes for beta-galactosidase, can be scored by using X-gel, which on hydrolysis give a blue color. This system can be used to study virtually any protein-protein interactions and irrespective of their subcellular localization. It can also be scaled up to study genome-wide interactions. The disadvantages of this system include false positive result due to non-specific interactions. Next method is co-immunoprecipitation. This is also used as an in vivo approach that can potentially identify all the interacting partners of a single protein. An antibody against the protein is used to pull down the protein along with its interacting partner. If an antibody against the protein is not available, then the protein can be tagged with an epitope like flag, CMYC, HIS or GST, and an antibody against the tag can be used. In this experiment, the antibody is added to the crude cell lysate made under non-denaturing conditions and is allowed to bind to the protein. The bound protein is precipitated and analyzed for the interacting protein, either by Western blot or by mass spectroscopy. The main advantages of this technique are low affinity interactions cannot be detected by this method. The main advantages of this method is the interacting protein are in their natural state and post-translational modified. This method can also be adapted as an in vitro strategy by using overexpressing clone of interacting protein. The protein are expressed in vitro using cell-free translation system like rabbit reticulocyte translation kit. The two expressed protein are allowed to mix and precipitating using antibody against one of the protein followed by jelly electrophoresis and Western blotting. A negative result would also be obtained by the two proteins were interacting by a third protein. Next is in vitro techniques. The in vitro technique studies protein-protein interactions under cell-free milieu. First is affinity chromatography. This technique is most common method to study interaction under cell-free milieu. To identify the interacting partner of a protein, it is expressed as a fusion protein with an affinity tag. The overexpressed protein is bound to a column using affinity tag. For example, if the protein is tagged with histidine, a Ni2 positive anticolumn is used for immobilizing the protein. The cell extract made under non-denaturing conditions is passed over the column. After washing, the bound proteins are eluted and analyzed by jelly electrophoresis. The identity of the bound protein can be determined either by Western blot or by mass spectrometry. In many cases, a control column without the immobilized protein is used to eliminate false positive results arising due to non-specific interaction between protein present in the cell lysate and the column matrix. The main advantages are its sensitivity and the ability to detect even weak interactions. There are many variations available for this method. First is detecting direct interaction between two proteins, and next is tap affinity. And the last method is in silico method. The bioinformatic techniques can also be used for predicting protein-protein interactions. The vast range of protein database available can be mined for information, and algorithms have been employed to identify potentially interacting proteins. Many online software are available for predicting protein-protein interaction methods. The following methods have been used for identifying interaction computationally. First is gene co-expression method. Next is phylogenetic method, profile method. Third is Rosetta Stone method. And last is structure-based prediction method. Thank you.